We're live. This is a bit weird because I'm joined tonight by my husband.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
This is my husband, Nick Claydon. He is property investor and mentor. You've been mentoring people for about 11,
12 years. Yeah. All over the UK.
There we are. And the reason that he's joining me is because we're not in the same location. We aren't in the same location. We are still married, but he is at one of our hotels down in Southport while I'm up in Edinburgh. So tonight we're going to be talking about the challenges that property investors are facing coming out of lockdown and what we envisage is likely to be happening over the next 6 to 12 months. How to overcome those challenges, because we have had some quite difficult scenarios due to COVID, the C word. And so we're going to talk about that tonight, and you can ask us any questions that you want. So by all means, put some comments and questions below. They hopefully should just come through to us here on our live stream. So any questions that you've got or topics you'd like us to cover, we would be happy to take them on board. So there's three main areas of challenge that I'd like to cover tonight. And then you, the audience, can decide if there's any others that we'd like to add in. But I want to talk about how we're coping with our builders and the fact that labour and materials have gone up in cost. I want to talk about the market, finding deals, and the way that properties are just flying off the shelf before they're practically on the market. And then the last one is the conveyancing timeframes, conveyancing and refinancing, and how long that's been taking during COVID. So those are three major challenges that property investors are facing coming out of COVID. So if there's any others that you want us to cover, by all means chip in. So we'll just break them down and take them one at a time, and we can spend some time on each of them tonight. So let's start with the builders. Funnily enough, in all our years of training, Nick, being ripped off by builders is always people's number one fear. Being ripped off or scammed by a builder. And here we are going out there into the market, and builders can pretty much put any price they want on jobs now.
It's the thing. Most people I come across and mentored over the years, it's almost like the number one question after, location, where do I invest? The biggest worry is builders. How do I find builders? How to work with builders? How do I make sure I don't get scammed? All these kind of questions. It's a really big kind of thing in investors' mindset is builders. And I try and break it down and say to our students, it's like anything. You're going to work with some builders who you get on with. You're not going to find one builder that maybe sees you through all the way. You're going to start with one team and you'll grow. You'll find another team. There are really, really excellent builders out there. There's lots and lots of excellent builders out there. Like any walk of life, there's some rogue ones too. So this is why you need to know what you're doing so that you can identify builders that are going to be great part of your power team, and make sure you avoid the rip-off merchants, of which unfortunately there are some out there. Yeah. Massive thing with builders, and right now what we're finding with builders is that costs are going up steeply.
Yeah. In fact, we had a meeting with our builder yesterday on one of our projects, and in fairness, this isn't a location where labour costs are particularly high. And he said just during the last 6 to 12 months, he's had to give a £3 per hour pay rise to a number of his workers because it's so difficult for him to find joiners and labourers and people with skill. And they are in such high demand that they can pretty much name their price and say, give me a pay rise or I'm out. And they're being held to ransom there.
That's probably about a 15% pay rise, 15-20% maybe.
Yeah.
And that won't be the last time that he has to do that. I think he looked quite worried, didn't we, when we saw him? So, but at the end of the day, that those costs are only going one way. They're being passed on to us as investors. So we're going to have to start thinking about that and making sure our budgeting is correct, which again means having really, really strong relationships with your builder so you can start to budget and make sure that you are on top of these costs. You don't want a nasty surprise by kind of plucking a build cost out of the air and suddenly realizing that you're 20-30% under where you should be, costing out your project. So really, really important to have really strong relationships with your builder, and just be aware of this, this rise in costs, which is not entirely COVID related. It's also Brexit related. Yeah. So we're getting a lot of that as well, the B word, where we're getting a lot of builders that are, really struggling to find labour, and also, cost of materials that come in from Europe has gone through the roof. There's extra considerations they need to make when importing materials. So, all these factors come into play, and we're seeing those costs rising.
Yeah, I was speaking to a few of our students, and they were saying that some of their build costs, that their standard bread and butter, have shot up by like 40 to 45%, which is an incredible leap, down to the cost of timber and cement and things like that being, because of Brexit, harder to come by. And so again, it's a commodity that people can start pricing as they see fit. So we really do need to be a little bit ahead of the game and understand, well, if you'd normally budgeted £15,000 for a 2 or 3 bed terrace house, for example, probably up that considerably to over-egg it and always overestimate how much it's going to cost, so that you aren't caught off guard, or like you say, have any kind of nasty surprises. Any other tips on the builder side of things? I mean, having good relationships with them is all very well for people who have builders. What about people that have never dealt with a builder before and are just starting out, and they're thinking, okay, I'm trying to buy this house here. I have no idea how much it's going to cost me to tart it up and make it look nice. How do they even guesstimate where they're at right now? Is there a kind of tried and tested formula that people can use, or is it location dependent?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is location dependent, because labour costs vary around the country. If you're down in the southeast, then labour costs are going to be significantly higher than they are if you're operating in the northeast of the country, for example, in Scotland. So you need to get a handle on labour costs as well as materials costs, which shouldn't really change that much wherever you're based. So you need to educate yourselves on what things cost. I always think that's a good exercise to do. Talk to as many builders as you can. When you're out in your investment areas, I make it a habit of if I see building work going on, I will go and talk to those builders. We're literally from our hotel 2 doors up, there's a project going on, and I dropped in to see them today and to see, hey, what they're doing. Are they going to be competition for me? But also, I've always got an eye on, well, I'm always looking for good building teams. So if I can go on site and I can see how they're operating, go and chat to the foreman, the guys that are running the site, chat with them, see what they're doing, see how they're operating. I can get a really good feel quite quickly as to whether that might be a team I'd want to use and want to employ. Get a feeling for what they're doing there, what kind of standard, what kind of finish. I always look, actually, a good tip for me is always looking at building sites is how clean they keep it. Particularly, if you go to if you're going to drop in on a building site, go towards the end of the day, kind of 4 or 5 o'clock, see how clean it is. Our builders, we currently haven't worked done on our house, and those guys are excellent. They make sure that the place is spotless at the end of the day. They tidy up really, really well, and that's a really good sign of a good, competent building team that really go the extra mile and really care. So that's one thing I would definitely do. But certainly, when you're out and about, go and find building sites and go and talk to people. There's really no substitute for doing that. Go and talk to people.
Yeah,
I love doing that.
There's lots of talking to strangers, isn't there? The opposite to what our parents have brought us up to believe. Lots of talking to strangers.
Yeah, but when you're in your investment patch, you want to be talking to everyone that's involved in all aspects of a property business. And builders is a key part of that. So you've got to make it your business to get out there and get to know people. That's how things happen. That's how you make things happen. That's how you build your team. A lot of it goes on gut feeling as well. With a builder, somebody that gives a good impression. Your gut feeling is normally right. Millions of years of evolution have told us that that's what your gut feeling is. If you're getting a bad vibe off someone, walk away.
Yeah. Now, for people who are starting out, sometimes they get obsessive about the paperwork, getting contracts with a builder, having a contract. Well, that protects me from everything. What's your take on the whole obsession about having contracts in place with builders? Does it actually protect you if you're doing, let's say, a buy-to-let? Different, obviously, the bigger the project you go, the bigger the development. But if you're doing, say, a buy-to-let 2 to 3 bedroom property, being a stickler for contracts and paperwork, is it going to make a difference?
I think it's probably going to hold you back a bit more. You know, some people want to have that. The type of builder / contractor that you're working with on a 10k buy-to-let refurb in Grimsby is a different thing to developing a commercial building into 20 flats. That's a very, very different thing. So certainly if you're getting involved in bigger projects, you absolutely do want contracts in place, in terms of full cost of work, schedule of works, timescales, and everything built into that contract. If you're doing a 10k buy-to-let refurb in Grimsby, I don't know. I'm not going to be a stickler for a contract in that kind of environment. I just want good people on site, and I would probably be more, managing that from afar, making sure that things happen when they should happen. You're really dealing with more kind of one-man band operators who, might bring in other trades as and when they need them for that kind of job. So, yeah, I'm not going to be a stickler for a contract on a 10k refurb.
Yeah. So do you think then that because of COVID and the fact that so many people are doing lots of work to their own house, they've been stuck in their house due to lockdown, maybe they are thinking, well, I can't afford to move, or we'll just maximize and develop the space that we've got, so builders can pick and choose who they want to work with again. So if you are one of those sticklers that wants people to sign contracts and you're giving off distrusting vibes, they probably won't want to work with you anyway. So do you think that once this ripple effect of COVID has died down, that the demand for builders will change again? Or do you think it's going to be maintained?
I think everything goes in cycles. We're just seeing a different cycle in the property market right now, where it's harder to find good deals. Prices are rising. It's a seller's market. With builders, they can pick and choose. Fast forward a year, 18 months, 2 years, who knows? It might be completely opposite, and you might find that finding deals is easier. It's a buyer's market, and builders are desperate for work. So we've got to be able to work in both those environments and feel confident about working in both those kind of environments. It demands different skills from the investor, so you've got to have all of the sets of skills, because you need to be able to operate in any economic environment. And that's what is the difference between the amateur investor and the professional investor. Professional investors are always operating. There's always an opportunity for professional investors, no matter what the market's doing. With the amateurs, they'll look at the news and read the papers and think, I can't get deals at the moment, so I'll wait. And then when the market turns and suddenly it's a buyer's market and there's lots of deals, the amateurs will get a bit apprehensive, because they're thinking, well, why is everyone selling? I better wait and see if prices return. And those kind of investors obviously never end up buying anything. So, it's about learning the skills to operate in any economic environment and be able to make money. So yes, it's different right now. We have to work harder at finding deals. We have to work harder at getting good building teams on side and making them want to work with us. But in 2 years' time, it might be different. We'll have to work harder in other areas, in different areas.
Yeah, well, that's it. When we started 13 years ago, we had to work really hard to raise money. Whereas actually raising money now is relatively easy, because there's such a huge amount of availability of funds, and people have such low interest rates on their returns, on their money in the bank, that raising money, private money, is relatively straightforward. So you're right. Like you just have to, roll with the punches and the changes. And I think you're right. When people are nervous about something like, oh, it's a hot market, I can't get deals, well, I'm just going to wait for the market to crash. That's another topic that we can talk about.
Those people are probably still waiting, for the last 12 years, you've been waiting,
Yeah.
In those 12 years, how many properties have we bought?
I know, exactly. And I think when they are waiting waiting for the conditions to be right, they're always behind, because the people who've been out there building the relationships, speaking to agents or vendors or building teams, that when the market does change again, they're ready, they're already in it, they're living it, they're breathing it, and then they just adapt as it happens. Whereas if they're having to start the momentum from cold, they're never gonna achieve what they want to achieve, because they're kind of chasing their tails, while the professional guys have been in there doing it the whole time. Yeah, the whole cycles. Okay, good. Right. So what about this whole finding deals then, right? This hot market before a property even is on the available to view. You arrange your viewing, it's already sold the next day, and your viewing gets cancelled, right? And the amount of frustration we've had from people saying, "Oh, can't get any deals, it doesn't work."
No matter what the market is, there's always that's always one that I hear. Can't find deals. Okay. Well, someone's finding them. So I tell you, it'll be the professionals that are finding them. So I mean, the bottom line is, as an investor right now in the market, if you're, sitting back on Rightmove, you're just scanning Rightmove every day, or set up your alerts and think that's going to do it for you. It isn't, because by the time you've had your alert come through, you pick up the phone, you call an agent, it's gone, and it's gone to a professional investor who's ahead of the game. So in this kind of market, that just really isn't going to work. And I speak to a lot of investors who are, when I hear that and they say, I can't find any deals, my next question is, okay, well, what are you doing? How are you finding deals right now? And I pretty much guarantee 9 out of 10 will be saying, well, I'm searching on Rightmove, can't find anything. It's like, well, no, that's not how you're going to find them in this kind of market. You've got to work harder than that. This is where, as I talk about kind of market cycles, is that we now have to work really, really hard on this side of it. And that's all about building relationships with agents. A lot of our students who've got, training with us, professional, investors, as I would call them now, they know how to do it. They're still finding deals. One of my students did an assisted sale, last month, and that's acquiring a property under market value without even having to buy it, doing the refurb and selling it, and made over £20,000 profit. And that's in this market. When everyone's talking about you can't find below market value deals, well, you can. You just have to work harder.
Yeah.
So it's all about off market. It's all about finding those sellers who need to sell, not want to sell. There's a lot of vendors out in the market who, for whatever reason, there's plenty of reasons why don't want to work with agents. They like selling to private individuals. They're not fussed about getting top market value. They just want a discreet sale. We've got to find it. We've got to work hard to find those. And also then working with your agents. At the moment, when you hear stories about agents charging for viewings, or not even taking your phone calls or returning your phone calls, this makes me laugh, because we're just in that part of the market cycle right now. As I said, fast forward a year, your agents will be desperate probably, and they'll be chasing you. But right now we're doing the chasing. So yes, you have to be out there building relationships with agents that operate and sell in your areas, and working harder than the other amateur investors out there who aren't doing those things. So yeah, this is where our focus is. We have to work harder at this part of it.
Yeah.
In another part of the cycle, we work harder in other parts of it. Yeah.
I think having that mindset of being resilient to whatever the challenge is just being like, cool, it's not gonna last, right? And I'll never forget hearing on an audio book that I was listening to, them saying that nothing ever stays the same. So if things are going brilliantly for you, well, cherish it, because it's not going to stay the same. It's going to turn to shit at some point. And then if things are really tough right now and it's really ugly, then that's not going to stay the same. It's going to turn good, and you're going to, enjoy it at the cycle at some point. So that is always reassuring. If you're feeling like, God, I seem to be putting in a lot of effort and I don't seem to be getting anything back from it, it is all kind of stored up, ready. It's like you're filling the dam with all the water, and that dam is eventually going to break, and suddenly things are just going to click into place for you when the time is right. But if you're putting all that effort in, and you truly believe that that it's going to turn and come good, then it generally does. If you're the type of person that constantly finds problems and is it's the people that moan. Isn't it, Nick? People that moan and be like, I can't do it. I don't have the time.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work that always makes me laugh, because it's not that it doesn't work. It's that essentially that person isn't working. They're not doing what they should be doing. Their mindset is wrong, thinking that property is pretty easy. You just set up a couple of alerts on Rightmove, sit back and wait for the deals to roll in. Well,
yeah, it doesn't work like that. In fact, the people that do say it doesn't work and kind of find problems and faults in it, it's normally coming from a place of insecurity or lack of confidence. And that lack of confidence is because they haven't done it yet, right? So it's that vicious cycle that they find themselves in. So, the importance of surrounding yourself with people who are doing it and getting results, and they're doing the same thing as you, should give you that confidence and belief that your turn is coming. It's going to happen for you. We definitely had moments when we started where we questioned, are we doing the right thing here? Because I remember thinking, God, wouldn't it be lovely, to have a regular salary coming in from a job, because at least that money's coming in every month. Here we are kind of hustling and trying to build a property business, and there were some really, really tough times where we had to dig deep and say, no, come on, we know why we're doing this. We know what our end goal is. We have to keep going, even if offers, fall through, or a refinance doesn't happen the way you want it to, or whatever it is. As long as you know why you're doing it, that helps keep you going. That tends to really help you out. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, I do. We've been in the corporate world and had regular salaries, and it didn't do it for us, because you're missing out on so much else. So yes, you might have the security of a regular salary, but I mean that can be taken away from you like that. You miss out on it. The opportunity cost of that is that you don't get to do all the other cool things that we've ended up doing. So there's different stresses. But when you're working for yourself, it's on your terms, and that if you work hard and you have a strategy and a plan, you'll get there. But said that for us, it was absolutely all about surrounding ourselves with people who were doing what we wanted to do. It's logically makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's, well, I want to do property, so I don't really know how to do it professionally. I know people do, so logically it's, well, let's go and talk to some of those people that do it professionally, and I'll copy what they do. I mean, that's basically what we did. I do find it frustrating, and I know that the individuals themselves are frustrated trying to do it themselves. It frustrates me when I find people that think they can do it all on their own.
Yeah,
and I'm sure those people are very frustrated themselves that they're struggling. They can't do it on their own. It was very, very important for us to actually just go and talk to people who were doing property in a professional way and get them to teach us how to do it.
Yeah. It's like anything, isn't it, in life? Like, the Olympics. I can't stop talking about the Olympics because it was so inspiring. But every single one of those Olympians that was interviewed after their event, they all said the same thing. It was like verbatim, all of them saying, I couldn't have done it on my own. I want to thank my team, my coach, everyone that believed in me, everyone that supported me. They were just.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the gold medal winners saying that they watched a couple of YouTube videos and decided, yeah, great, I can go and win a cycle race, or I can go and win the BMX. Watch a couple of YouTube videos. Cool, I know how to do it now. Yeah. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, funnily enough, or a couple of audiobooks.
Yeah.
All right, so we've dealt with the builders angle. We've dealt with the fact that we're in a hot market. Just on that, what do you think is going to happen to it? What do you envisage over the next sort of 3 to 6 months? I don't want to go too far into the future, right? But 3 to 6 months, what do you think is going to happen? And this is a, by the way, because we can't see into the future.
I'll look into my crystal ball. Yeah, look, I mean, I actually tend not to spend a lot of time thinking about it because I can't control any of that. And it leads to too many assumptions, I think, when you start thinking what you think might happen in 3, 6, 9 months. Because it's an old quote, I think, who is it? Someone like George Soros or someone in famous investor. He said, the market will stay solvent longer than you can. Or no, the market will stay, can stay, what was the word he used? Essentially, the markets can stay, crazy longer than you can stay solvent. He was talking about the financial markets. What he meant was, too many people try and predict the top of a market. You can't, and so you might think the market keeps going up, or you think it can't go up any higher than that, so it's got to crash, but it doesn't. It keeps going, until some point it corrects, but it's corrected way above where you thought it would, or whatever. But I tend not to worry about things like that. But what do I think? I don't think there's an imminent crash. I can't see it. There's so much pent up demand. There's so many people, wanting to buy. The fundamentals are still strong. There's no reason for that to change. We're seeing only now really starting to see the impact of Brexit coming out of the pandemic. There's huge pent up demand. People want to buy. People want to, buy buy their own homes. They want to buy investment properties. They want to shield themselves from future pandemics, things like that, or catastrophes, whatever. I'm not thinking that there's any kind of an imminent market crash. I think it's going to. I think it's going to keep going at the same pace. But if I had to predict, I'd say it's going to cool a bit. But I don't think there's any kind of imminent crash coming.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion on that. But who knows? But anyone sitting around waiting for a market crash to buy, as I said, they've been waiting a long time. Yeah. And think about where the market's gone in that time.
Yeah. Well,
and what you may have missed out on.
Yeah. So for those of you that are watching right now, if you've got any questions, by all means, put them in the comments below. They do come through to us, and then we can talk about any topic that it is that you're interested in. But we're just talking about challenges that investors are facing in the market right now. We've talked about builders. We've talked about the heat in the market. I do agree it will cool slightly, but I'm not predicting any kind of massive major crash. But I mean, I would love a crash. Don't get me wrong. I would love a crash. But I think the absolute key there of what you just said was you can only worry about things that you can control. And you can't control what the market does, but you can control how you make money in the current market. And as long as you can get your head around making money in the current market, then you can get your head around making money in the next market, whatever that looks like, and so on and so forth. So whatever the market is doing, as long as you know how to make money in it, then why care what the market does? Because it's going to do what it's going to do. You need to just be able to adapt and move with it and just roll with it. Yeah.
Just think about the fundamentals of property. Essentially, we're a relatively small island with a big population. Huge pressure on housing. That's the fundamentals of UK property investing. Very strict planning laws, things like that. So, it's we're looking at a strategy right now where we're looking at a building to do as another cash flow strategy, but with a long-term view to turn it into a capital strategy. So we're thinking like a 10-15 year timeline for to sweat the asset, make it work really, really hard in terms of cash flow in the next 10 years, pay it off, and we're sitting on a prime piece of real estate that we can do something else with. That's a long-term strategy that doesn't really take into account what happens in the
there we go.
Prime real estate. It's always going to will be fluctuations in the market. In the long term, it will be okay. So it's about just getting out, taking action, no matter what the market's doing, and learning how to operate in any market.
Yeah. But that strategy we're looking at right now is something that we've been looking at only recently. And we take a view that whole putting money into a transaction, getting the money all back out straight away, get the asset for free, get the income for the rest of your life. We're kind of changing that a little just because of the strategy we're looking at and the types of property. and the longer term view on it, the financing. We're a bit more comfortable leaving money into a deal for slightly longer. So people starting out probably less so, but we're quite enjoying that strategy at the moment. Anyway, right, let's talk about the last challenge that we were going to talk about tonight, which is conveyancing, solicitors, the timeframes of the buying, the selling, and refinancing property. That has been quite a fascinating turn. They're working from home, so you'd think that there's less distraction so that they could probably get through more work. But in actual fact, they just got more work because of stamp duty holiday and banks changing their minds about lending. I mean, let's talk about timescales. So normally a purchase will take what, 6 to 8 weeks? 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, quickest, I think, I don't know, quickest we've ever done is probably 6 weeks. But generally speaking, it used to be about eight weeks. And we're finding that some deals are taking months. Months to get through.
A month, right? So, okay, is it worth outlining why it's taking all that time and then picking that apart to see how we can work with it? Because look, we can't control how solicitors operate. We can't control how banks make their decisions and operate. We can only control and manage our own expectations on how things are going to pan out with our solicitors and the conveyancing. So
you can help yourself with getting the right power team around you. So if you're using a one-man band operator, solicitor, then it might take them ages because they don't have a team around them to palm off work too. Or if you haven't built a relationship with them, then they're not going to prioritize your work. So having the right power team. So, for example, we've got more than one solicitor that we use in our power team.
Yep.
And so that and one of them is in a big firm, so that we give them a lot of work, so we know we can be looked after. They'll prioritize some of our stuff. So having the right power team, very, very important. Making sure, again, with finance, that you're speaking to your brokers, the right broker who understands this market and can give you advice on lenders who are working quickly at the moment. I could speak to our broker Stuart, and if we're looking to say a simple buy to let purchase, one of the questions I'll ask him straight away is, well, he's the quickest right now. I don't mind paying a little bit more on the rate if I can get a deal done quicker without going through endless cycles of underwriting, getting a mortgage through. So again, it's about having the right team in place, the right knowledge behind you, so how to circumvent some of these problems. A lot of the long delays I see is with often with investors trying to do it themselves, speaking to the wrong people, having the wrong banks, looking at their projects, which can delay things a lot. And I said, using the wrong type of solicitor who's got a massive backlog and can't prioritize your work. Yeah.
Stamp duty holiday definitely had an impact. Everyone desperate to get in just before that stamp duty holiday ended. Now that has ended, we should see things ease a little. It was a bit like a bottleneck in there. So it should ease slightly.
It's like a big kind of bubble going through the market. It's like, when you see those pictures of a snake eating an antelope or something, and you see this big, bulge going through the market, going through the snake. That's kind of what is happening right now. Is we just get this, all this post-COVID bulge through, and we should hopefully start seeing things go back to some kind of normality. That's what I think.
So once the snake has had
the snake is digested properly,
then the market will be good. All right, that's good. Timescales on when conveyancing will be, back to normality. I mean, we're kind of seeing it begin to trickle through, but it's probably going to be another couple of months or so. But let's talk about lenders, right? Because I think, again, a lot of investors starting out, they don't pay enough attention to the lending angle. And lenders can make or break a deal, can't they?
Yeah, the right type of lending can absolutely make or break a deal. Get the wrong type of lending, and sometimes a deal that an amateur investor couldn't do because they didn't know about the lending, a professional can do because they've got the right lending. It's that important.
Right. There we are. There we go. I see Shirin. There we go. If you click the link there, Shirin, or if you go to that link, then that will help you to contact any of our team, or you can message me on Instagram and I will help you out there, because your question is quite specific there. So yeah, message me on Instagram. I'm Caroline_Claydon_property. That's how to message me there, Shirin. The lenders, their appetite for lending right now, it went a little bit wobbly, didn't it? It was like, oh, should we be lending? Have a little bit of a wobble. I've seen headlines that more lenders are coming into the market. There's going to be quite a lot of competition. They're seeing that this is a good market to be in. What's your predictions on the lending side of things over the coming months?
Most lending, I'd say, is pretty much back to normal. I caught up with Stuart, our broker, earlier today, and he's like, most of the lenders are now back to relative normality. Big appetite to lend, absolutely coming out of the pandemic. Lots of people are looking to do things. Lenders need to make money too. There is big appetite for lending, but you got to get the right kind of lending for the projects you want to do. Yeah. Again, that's why my first phone call is always to Stuart. What's happening, what's going on in the lending market, who should I be using? And a good broker would be able to tell you what's going on accurately. So I think that lending will go back to relative normality, if not already, then very soon.
Yeah, because we're seeing the loan to values are pretty healthy. The rates
are amazing. Rates are the best ever be in your lifetimes. My lifetime, certainly. The rates, they're only going to go one way at some point. Who knows when? But right now, it's the best lending market I think I've ever really known. I have to say. Yeah.
So it's buy. Yeah. There are opportunities out there. There are anomalies. Nick and I just viewed an anomaly this week twice, not just once, twice. We saw it. It's been on the market for a couple of months. It's an anomaly because people won't really know what to do with it. It's really, really smelly, but there are people living there, and it could be developed into flats. It could be developed into one flat, maybe two flats. It could be used as a service accommodation. It could, there's lots of little things that it could be, but I think people aren't really knowing where to pigeonhole it. And that's where I think we saw the opportunity and are likely to look at that through slightly different eyes that others would look. I'm excited about that one because I know this is probably the best time to get properties like that, when people might be a little nervous about what's going on in the marketplace and what they should and shouldn't be doing. And because lending is so positive, then it really is encouraging and going to force us to do it, I think. So there are anomalies out there where people are maybe looking at properties with one particular exit plan or strategy, when in actual fact, if you just change it a little, you might find that it's going to perform a lot better. We're still crunching the numbers on that one, but you'll be the first to know once we secure it. Do you see that language that I'm using? Once we secure it, positive language. We're going to get it.
Yeah, but it's all about strategy, that one, because a lot of other investors or amateurs might look at it and, as Caroline says, not really understand what to do with it or how to make money out of it. Because we've got a particular strategy, we can look at that and we can see how it can make money in more than one way. So it means that we can get much closer to the asking price than probably other types of investors would.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. So it's exciting time. So, we're still out there actively looking. There are some strategies in the commercial market that are super hot right now. For example, industrial, really, really popular because of people desperately needing space for businesses that have come to life basically during the lockdown.
But talk about cycles. 2-3 years ago, you talked to a commercial surveyor, they couldn't shift industrial units for love nor money. Now, as an investor looking to buy them, they're like, yeah, you and everyone else. So that's when we have to work really, really hard again at building relationships with those commercial surveyors, commercial agents to get those kind of deals, because everyone's now after them. But I said, that's why you got to keep your eye on the market cycles. Who now wishes they'd bought, a warehouse 3 years ago, turned it into dark kitchen or e-commerce units, or whatever, So you've got to know what your strategy is. It wasn't our strategy at that time.
Yeah.
Kind of was. Right? It wasn't, it wasn't. We were doing something else at that time. So, that's why it's so important to have a clear understanding what your strategy is and not just be out there randomly looking at, different things without knowing what you're actually trying to do.
Yeah. I think the challenge that people have at this particular time in the market, if they're starting out, is that whole where to start. How do I even get going? How do I even start to put a strategy together, start looking for off-market deals if I don't even know how to do it once? They don't have the confidence in it. Again, it falls into that vicious cycle. But networking events are opening up again. So this is a real positive. And we're certainly looking to run one of our major events live in the room. There's going to be guest speakers and lots of content shared and deals looked at and deal clinics. That's happening imminently over the next month or so. And I think that the value people get from that human interaction, really they benefit massively from, and you can learn so much from just being around people who live and breathe this on a daily basis. Any other challenges? We're going to wrap up soon, so we've got another couple of minutes or so. We don't want to spend too much time talking about challenges, because there's loads of positives going on in the market as well. We've got reports saying that voids are at an all-time low, so properties being empty for any particular time are at an all-time low. So that's a real positive from an investor's point of view, as well as rents are increasing. They've gone up on an average 8.5%, but I have seen areas where rents have increased by nearly 20%. So, while it's a bit yin and yang, isn't it? While there's challenges on one hand, there's always mass positives to be in the business in another. And as Nick said earlier, if you can learn how to make money in the market, regardless of what it's doing, then you're just evolving and growing as an investor and learning new strategies, and you don't want to stay still. You don't want to get stagnant. But we've never experienced a pandemic before. We've never experienced, a lockdown. We've never experienced the economy as it is right now, but we're continuing to buy property. We're kind of keeping the keep calm and carry on mindset. Right, what's our outcome? What's the end in mind, and work backwards from there, and then we just put our actions in place.
We certainly wouldn't have planned to open a hotel in March 2020, just as a global pandemic hit. That wasn't planned, but we had to roll with that, and we had to work out how that was, how we're going to get through that. I mean, fortunately, it was our one of our key strategies was to look at low-cost operating models in the service accommodation hotel sector, and so that was enabled us to ride out the pandemic quite comfortably. Yeah. We're now opened, and things have gone crazy in this market. So, it's about having a key strategy. Life's going to throw curveballs at you. Yep. COVID's been the curviest of curveballs, but as investors, we've got to roll with that. We've got to work out how to still grow and develop and build our business no matter what is going on. So for those that are feeling fearful in this market for whatever reason, again, fast forward 2-3 years in a different cycle, you'll be fearful about a different aspect of it. So it's never, you're never going to get everything lined up that says, right, now is the green light, now we can go and buy property completely safely, there's no problems at all. Never happens. There's always challenges, they just change.
exactly. So a question came in, direct to vendor, what works the best? What works the best those times in your opinion? Okay, so there's various ways that of course you can get direct to vendor. I see lots of people do flyers, adverts. I like speaking to people, literally just talking to everybody, telling them what I do, everyone knowing what I'm going to do. There are so many different ways. I mean, you could sponsor a local football team, you could have adverts in the local rugby program, program at the rugby match, or if you're just known as the person who solves property problems, then that in itself will create direct to vendor deals. It doesn't need to necessarily be just one strategy. You could do a number of different strategies to get direct to vendor. I don't find flyers.
But lots of different things work for lots of different people. If you just do one thing, then it may work, it may not. But if you have multiple marketing strategies for direct to vendor, and that's what you've got to think about. That's what you're doing. You're marketing for opportunities. You've got to have multiple leads. You've got to have multiple lead sources. So leafleting may work in some areas, not others. But if you're doing it, you're giving yourself a chance. If you're advertising in the local press, giving yourself that opportunity. If you're advertising on Gumtree, you're getting the online marketing angle done. But also talking to people. Everyone you meet in property is multiple lead sources. Everyone you meet is a potential lead source. I've been out on viewings with students of mine where through an agent we get a viewing, but it's with the vendor. Talk to the vendor. It's clearly a rental property. Ask the question. Okay, how many properties you got? I did one of those on a mentorship with one of my students, and the answer was, I've got 70 properties. And I said, well, are you looking to sell them? Yeah, all of them. So we were viewing one, and there was 70 in the portfolio, but only one was on the market. So there were 69 properties direct to vendor, not on the market, that landlord was looking to sell.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have known that if you hadn't been out there viewing properties and asking the questions. So you've got to do lots and lots of things. Talk to people, talk to everyone, tell everyone what you do, and use your marketing strategies.
Yeah. Love it. There are deals out there. Absolutely. So guys, if you're interested in hearing any more about what we talk about and what we teach at Property Wealth System, you can go to the link that is displayed on the screen right now or in the comment section there. We will aim to be here every Wednesday to do a sort of Q&A topic, a hot topic of discussion. In fact, the last one was estate agents charging £35 for a viewing. Would we pay it? And so if there's any topics that you'd like us to cover, or any areas that you have a particular challenge with or you need help with, then by all means, you can either private message either one of us or put it in the comments below. And we'll endeavour to get that answered on the next time we come on to share some content with you. So we hope that you've enjoyed that session tonight. We look forward to seeing you again at roughly the same time next week, Wednesday nights, early evening sometime. And if, like I say, if there's any other questions or comments you'd like to make, by all means, get in touch with us on Instagram or Facebook or any of the other platforms, LinkedIn and the likes. It's been lovely seeing you, husband. I know that you are.
I'll see you at some point when I get home.
Yeah, in a couple of days. I'll look after the kids while you're away, shall I? And I'll run the numbers on that deal we're looking at as well.
You do that. I'm going to be going around our hotel putting lots of nice fire notices up.
Good. Excellent. All right. Take care, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.